Let's talk about what it is to be human in the year 2023 when you have people living, as people are living in Tanzania, in some ways I think better off than we are, and in other ways not. And what it's like to be sitting here in Minnesota. We are all generally privileged people, I think, relative to the mean, the average globally. And what does it mean to be who we are here, in this broader context? So I see some heads nodding. So Karen will do her thing. We'll ask questions, talk about that, and then just have a conversation about what it means to be human in the year 2023, Minnesota, Africa, and the world as a whole. Does that work?
I'm excited to share with you all that context that we learned. As you know, we work primarily on health in Tanzania. So to start this presentation, what I was hoping to do today is to give you just a little bit of context about what we're dealing with countrywide, and then we'll get a little bit more regionally specific. But what I like to highlight here is it's a very young country. As you can see, most of the population is below 64 years of age. And you can see that there's a high 0 to 14 population, so just over half of the population. So a lot of women having babies, and a lot of people dying young. Very high under 5 infant mortality rate. There's a bit of a reference point under the healthcare availability that kind of compares our U.S. system with the Tanzanian system, and that just gives a little bit of context. But really, when we're talking about causes of death, we're looking at really preventable things. Neonatal disorders, respiratory, HIV/AIDS prevention, stroke, which probably isn't too different than where we're at right now here in the United States. But we look at the access, and that becomes an issue, right? When we're looking at one doctor for 30,000, one nurse for 17,000, one hospital bed for 14,000. So it gets to be an access issue very quickly, and we'll talk a little bit about infrastructure and roads and what that looks like when we talk about access as well. Local context here, we are located in the Simiyu region in Bariadi district. So Michelle and I flew into Dar es Salaam, and then we took about a 2-hour flight to Mwanza, which you can see up here in the top. Maybe start to feel like a weather person when I do this. Mwanza there, and then we took another 4-hour journey by car on pretty good roads, mostly tarred roads, to a place called Nkololo, and that's where our office is located. Very small village. It was functionally probably established by a priest who's been in the region for 55 years, and he has dedicated his life to building a parish and then a hospital as well. So we learned a lot about infrastructure and how they haven't necessarily as a country invested a lot into the infrastructure of roads, and so that's created a lot of fallout, as we were talking about earlier. So population of the Bariadi district is about 337,000, equally distributed between male and female. With a specific focus, we work with about 25 villages and 14 catchment areas. So what that means is sometimes the villages are close enough together where they can share a hospital or share a dispensary, and so they do. So then we'll kind of work with wherever those dispensaries are located throughout the region. So 14 of them, and that's based on primarily accessibility is how we've chosen them. Some villages get very cut off during the rainy season. I have a slide where it shows that. Moving on very briefly, Bariadi is very rural, as you can imagine, as I talked about our journey there. It's 30% agriculture, as Sharon was mentioning. A lot of different things are grown there: cotton, sunflowers, a lot of maize, corn. But as Michelle was talking about, the #1 cause of morbidity and mortality is still malnutrition. And that's driven by poor agricultural practices and the need to generate cash. So they're looking at that, instead of looking at their livestock or their farmland and saying like, oh my gosh, this is food for my family and subsistence for myself, they're looking at that as shilling signs, right? And saying that this is what I'm gonna sell to be able to provide for my family. And so they're not necessarily looking at that as anything that they can provide to their family. One of the things I was shocked about is there were 5,000 students for 15 teachers.
Yeah.
Let that sink in for a second. 5,000 students, 15 teachers for the whole Nicololo district area.
Yeah.
And you can imagine that a teacher can't provide any sort of successful education to 5,000 students. We really ensure that the practices and the program and the approach we take is based in local practices. We have no desire to change culture or change the way things are done. We reach thousands each month. So we have long-standing community connections, so this would be a community that we would go and do this outreach with maybe once or twice a month. So, and then going out to do visiting with the community health workers to do some site visits, maybe once, twice a month. So usually 4 interactions per month per village is what we say. In 2022, the reach of this program was 266,961 individuals with a budget of less than 60,000. This was during COVID, but this is a very great example of what our outreach would look like. So on the top is Valeria and one of our health workers, Mahadu, and they have a speaker in front of Valeria there, and they have a little microphone. So about a kilometer before they get to the village, there's this big, they turn on the microphone, and everything just starts like, come on, come on, come on, come on, we're gonna have cinema, 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 a fun day. And then people just start coming out, and sure enough, just as the sun sets, we set up the projector and we start talking about everything from cervical cancer screenings to cholera prevention to, I don't know what else there was, breastfeeding. And so that was, it's a miraculous program that really does draw a lot of people for the purpose of education. And then we bring a health worker with us because we want to draw them back to healthcare, right? So we want them to know what services are available.
You've come a long way since we started that.
We're trying, we're working.
Yeah.
We're working. And it's really Anna Maria, Valeria, and Amadeus, right? Like, we support where we can, and we are but we're open to their ideas. And I know Anna Maria has big plans if we were to get some more funding about putting nurses in villages and partnering with colleges and universities, and it just would be this, it would be magic. But we need the mission and the money, so. I love this picture. So this is as I was just talking about and putting a picture to some words now. So this was an event that we did, Michelle and I got to attend, and this is the video we were showing that night. And 60% of our reach comes from this approach to kind of cinema and outreach.
Are you still using the iPad?
We are still using iPads, considering other opportunities, but the health workers and the CHWs really love the iPads, even though they come with their own set of issues and barriers. But seems like a really great opportunity now because people like to use them.
Sure.
So use what works and then build on. So this is Fellister, and I think this is a little longer video, and I will play it more than once, but please see the maze that we were just referring to. This is her field. And I'll do a little, so this is her old house there, that's her old.
Wow.
And then you can see her new house is in the one she's building right there. So this is her compound. She lives here without a partner, so she's got effectively 10 kids that she's raising. We're not quite sure based on, I don't think it really matters to them if they're her kids or whose kids they are. They're her kids now. And she takes care of them, and they all have their own space. It's very clean. She has her own little, in the new house, she's got her little bedroom all set up, and then she's got her kids were really excited to show us their rooms. So this is Fellister, and I think this is a little longer video, and I will play it more than once, but please see the maze that we were just referring to. This is her field. And I'll do a little, so this is her old house there, that's her old.
Wow.
And then you can see her new house is in the one she's building right there. So this is her compound. She lives here without a partner, so she's got effectively 10 kids that she's raising. We're not quite sure based on, I don't think it really matters to them if they're her kids or whose kids they are. They're her kids now. And she takes care of them, and they all have their own space. It's very clean. She has her own little, like, in the new house, she's got her little bedroom all set up, and then she's got her kids were really excited to show us their room.
Karibu ndani, karibu